touch on a couple other of the aspects of our government and the branch. If you want to go, let's skip down. This is the judicial branch. We didn't even talk about the judicial branch. We talked about the president, we talked about the House, and we talked about the Senate. But let's just talk about the judicial branch, because the judicial branch also has equal power. If the people in the judicial branch feel that they don't like this bill, that they don't agree with it, and a court case comes up, and say one person applies for citizenship. Let's say that that person has a birth certificate, they fill out the paperwork to become a citizen of the United States, they have a job and they can show that they are gainfully employed in the United States, and they still seek their right to become a U.S. citizen. And then the judge says no. The judge still has that power to say no, because there's three branches of government. And then likely what would happen is it would travel all the way to the top of the Supreme Court. There would be a ruling by the Supreme Court whether this is illegal, whether this bill is legal or not legal. But you can see that there's lots of safeguards in place so that one person is never in charge. There's always a balance between the judicial branch, the executive branch, and the United States Congress, the legislative branch. If you want to go real quick to the next slide, we'll talk just a little bit. The executive branch, the President of the United States, Mr. Bush, is not the only one making decisions. You can see that there's numerous secretaries under the President to make sure that the jobs get done. If anybody ever wants to be in politics, but they don't necessarily want to run for public office, they don't want to have a vote on the floor of the House, but they still want to make a difference, you can always look for a job in the Secretary of State's department. Those are the people who work on foreign policy issues. Right now, Iraq and Iran is a key foreign policy issue. Syria, other key places in the world. The Secretary of Treasury, this is the IRS, the people who collect taxes and pay the bills for the United States government. We have lots of bills to pay. The Secretary of Defense looks over our defense matters in our armed forces, the Army, the Navy. How many people have a brother or sister or relative who's serving in the armed forces? Who, yeah? The Attorney General. The Attorney General is like the lawyer for the U.S. government. So if there's a case that goes against somebody who sues the United States government, the Attorney General's office will defend the United States government. The Secretary of Interior, these are the people who look out for our parks, make sure that we have, protect our waterways and our natural forest areas. The Secretary of Agriculture, make sure that our food supply is safe, make sure that farmers aren't spraying pesticides, illegal pesticides on their corn crops. The Secretary of Commerce, his job is to promote business, make sure that we have a healthy economy and we have lots of jobs for everybody to work in. The Secretary of Labor is the person who makes sure that workers' rights are upheld, makes sure that this plays significantly into the immigration debate we just had, make sure that people are paid a fair wage, paid the minimum wage by law. The Secretary of Health and Human Services looks after people's health concerns. We have public health facilities. Also that falls into there is NIH and making sure that we control diseases so we don't have outbreaks of diseases. Does everybody remember SARS that happened in Asia? Right. We want to make sure that this is a good example of where the Health and Human Services would make sure they quarantine anybody that had SARS coming over to the U.S. The Secretary of Housing Development makes sure that we have affordable housing for people in low income brackets, people veterans who are coming home from serving over right now in Iraq. Next slide. Secretary of Transportation looks over all of our roads to make sure that there's not heavy traffic congestion. These are all federal highways. Secretary of Energy does an important job to make sure that we have enough energy to keep the lights on in the school, to make sure that you have enough energy to keep the heat on in your home during the winter months. Secretary of Education is a person that if we had, instead of passing an immigration reform bill today, we had passed a bill that said school starts at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, it would be the Secretary of Education that made sure that that got carried out throughout the United States of America. The Secretary of Veterans Affairs looks after all of our veterans, people who are returning from war or who have served in the past. The Secretary of Homeland Security, this is the newest branch of government, who is responsible for securing our borders, securing our ports, securing our airports, and making sure that terrorists are not coming into the country. I think that's it. These are your cabinet level positions, and these are all people that work for the President of the United States. So you can see that the President has a lot of people that work for him. But this is more or less the government, the United States government, how it works. It's the same system that was written by our forefathers, the Constitution of the United States. They wrote out these laws, and we have continued to hold up this system for a long time. And I want to go to Washington, D.C. to represent you as just one member of 435. So when I get to Washington, it'll be your job to tell me what bills you want me to pass, how you want me to vote. And as you move forward in life, you need to make sure that you become active, stay active in politics. Make sure that when you turn 18, you register to vote. Voting is very important. We just passed, did a mock simulation of how we pass a bill here. But if you don't vote, if you don't take your opinions to your representative, if you don't elect your members of Congress and your Senate and your president based on the things that you care about, then you really have no right whatsoever to express your opinion. In my opinion, if you don't vote, you don't necessarily have an opinion. This is your one opportunity. And having grown up in a third world where we don't have democracy, I can tell you that this is a true gift, and I hope that everybody stays active in politics, at least stays informed as to who their representatives are, and make sure that they're voting the right way. Does anybody have any questions? No. That was easy. Well, I want to thank everybody for your time today. I don't know where we are on time, but it was fun and exciting to come out here today, and I'm glad that everybody's able to participate, and thanks for being part of our mock government.
Let's give Mr. Laesch a round of applause. I think one of the most important things that was said here this morning is that you need to become active. And you do have a voice. One of the most enjoyable things this morning for me was actually watching those of you who participated. You do have a voice, and you used it. You used it very well, I might say. So give yourselves a round of applause.